So this is another one of my mermaids that I had printed on fabric. This is one of my most popular ones, and I'm going to show you a variation on this one that's probably just one of my all-time favorite designs. So I sewed on the line, and next I'm cutting this out, just being careful not to cut the sewing, obviously. And I do cut it pretty close to the seam, but I've been doing it for so long that I know exactly how to cut it. So, and now the tail, I do a little detail sewing on the tail, just because it makes it look so much cuter. So now I'm going to turn it inside out with my shish kebab skewers, as usual. And you just want to make sure that I'm poking out all of the corners and the arms. So here it is already, and I'm going to put a little stuffing into the tail, and then I'm going to do a little top stitching on the tail before I stuff the rest of it. It's a little added detail. It takes me a little bit longer to do it, and it looks cute without it too, but I just really like adding that detail on. So here it is. Here's the top stitching. I just like it because it gives it a little bit of a relief type look. So next I'm going to stuff the rest of the mermaid firmly, and including the arms. And then after I stuff it, I have to sew the top. Even though the top of her head is going to be covered, I like to sew it up. One time I didn't sew it up. I forget what I did. I either glued it or just glued hair on top of it. And I don't know, I didn't really like it. So it looked okay, but I just didn't really feel like it was done as professionally as I could have done it. So I'm going to water down this color. I'm using the tulip paints that I just showed you, and I water this way down. Now normally I do these assembly lines, so I would sew about 50 of these, and then I would color them all at the same time. It just saves a little time. So I'm trying to match the color to the front, and I love doing this. It's kind of a little very meditative when I do this. I really like it. So you have to let it totally dry. I'm going to paint the bottom also of her, but I have to let it dry. So while that's drying, here is my little variation on this. I did these little inner tube outlines. I have them printed on fabric. And I just love making these. It's a little bit of extra time, but they just make me really happy. So I'm going to sew around those, and the best part about this is I don't have to turn this inside out. I leave this just as it is, and I paint it because it makes it look like an inner tube. You know how an inner tube has that little seam, that little kind of seam? I don't know if you know what I mean. So the seam on this makes it look just like a real inner tube. So I have to cut a little hole in the bottom, and that doesn't show because I attach this to the mermaid, and it's on the bottom, so it doesn't really show. And then I have to stuff this, and I stuff the corners first and then work my way into the middle. And then once I stuff it, I have to sew that up, and I like to really sew that up nice and neat. So there it is, all done. I love painting these. So I'm going to use these purplish colors because my mermaid is green, and I like green and purple together. So I'm also going to use that iridescent pink over it. I love the sheen that iridescent paint gives it. So this is my very fancy painting technique. Using my fingers as usual and using my little inner tube to wipe up all the paint on the palette. Yep, that's my very advanced painting technique. And it also cleans the palette. So there's the purple, and then I'm adding that beautiful pearlescent paint on top. And then of course this has to dry as well, and those little hairs that are hanging off, I'm going to clip those off later. So these are my little swim caps that I made, and I'm going to use one of these tiny ones. I make bigger ones for the bigger mermaids and tiny ones for my tiny mermaids. And these are little sashes. They say I love Cape Cod. And sometimes I add the sash onto this particular design. I wouldn't add it on with the inner tube just because it's too many details, and anyway, it's either one or the other. It's either the inner tube or the sash. And they both sell very well. So I picked out a red flower and a pink flower. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use on the hat. And now I'm painting the back. And I start at the edges. I just really like to get the seam painted so that there's no white showing. And of course, that has to dry totally as well before you go on to anything else. So in addition to that, the other thing that needs to be done on the back is I draw the bra strap around from the front to the back. So I'm going to do that now with my micron marker. And this is a little added detail that is just so cute. So I like making the little bow tie around her neck as well. Now sometimes if I put hair on the mermaids, that gets covered up. But because I don't know which mermaid is going to have longer hair, which one's shorter, I just do that detail on everything. And sometimes it gets covered up, but now I'm going to also put a little glitter using my Dries Clear Art Glitter glue. And I'm going to use this emerald green glitter for the bra. And that looks really cute, that shimmer. So here's my little inner tube all dried. And I'm just trimming off those strings that were hanging off. And just trimming that seam a little bit closer. Now that it's painted, it's not going to fray. So look how cute this looks. Is that the cutest thing ever? I love that so much. This is really one of my favorite designs. It always makes me so happy. So here's my fabric tack, and I'm going to glue my little swim cap on. I definitely have to fight with it a little bit when I'm putting it on her head just because it's a little bit tight. So here it is. It's glued on. Looks so cute. Love those swim caps. And then I'm going to glue the flower on as well. And I think I like the red one better. So I'm going to use the red. So I glued on my inner tube. I put the glue on the bottom and a little on the back. And here's my red flower. And the last thing I'm going to need to do is put a string on. Actually, the second to last thing. Put the string on. And then I like to put the glitter overcoat. Now this is dimensional paint, but I just use it as a clear coating. And I just love the way this looks. So, isn't she cute? Thanks for watching. See you next time.